All right, it's time to meet the cranial nerves. Technically part of the peripheral nervous system, because they're not part of the brain, but they do originate on the brain, and so we're going to learn them here. Now, there are 12 cranial nerves. They all originate on the inferior surface of the brain. Some of them originate from the pons and the medulla oblongata. They are numbered 1 through 12, starting at the most anterior. You do get to learn the names and numbers of all 12, the function of all 12, and the point of origination of all 12. I know, how lucky are you? All right, I'm not going to ask you to identify the point of origination on a model, just on a diagram that looks almost exactly like this. All right, so the nerves from the anterior to the posterior are olfactory is first. Olfactory, remember, means smell. The nerve itself actually projects from this olfactory bulb down into the nasal cavity. Okay, so the olfactory bulb is actually where that olfactory nerve synapses, and then there is a second group of neurons that carry that signal from the olfactory bulb through the olfactory tract, which is a group of axons. You knew that because we already learned the word tract. All right, so that's number 1. Number 2 is the optic nerve, cranial nerve number 2. It's been cut off here, okay, but it would extend all the way up to the eyes. It synapses here at the optic chiasm, and then from there the optic tract, another bunch of nerves. Another bunch of neurons carries it back to the thalamus. Just to orient you, there's the infundibulum. The pituitary gland has been cut away, but normally it would sit here. So you'll see a circle right here sometimes on some diagrams. It's just the pituitary obscuring the view of the optic chiasm. The next is the oculomotor nerve. Now, its name, motor, we know means movement. Oculo sounds like eye, right? This is going to control the movement of 4 of the 6 muscles that move the eye and the muscle that raises your eyelid. Okay, so that's the oculomotor nerve right behind the optic chiasm. Okay. Next up is the trochlear nerve. This name is going to make sense once we've done the muscles. The superior oblique eye muscle, which moves the eye, the back of the eye up, goes through a trochlea, which is the word for pulley. So the trochlear nerve controls just the superior oblique eye muscle. Then we have the trigeminal nerve here, okay, originating from the pons. It's going to have a more complicated movement. And then the abducens, which is going to abduct or move laterally the eyes. I know, cool, right? Facial nerve, it's going to go to the face. Hard to imagine. Vestibulocochlear is going to carry signals from your ear. Vestibulo, your equilibrium, and cochlear is going to handle the hearing. Then we have glossopharyngeal. Glosso meaning tongue, pharyngeal meaning pharynx. This is going to go to the tongue and the pharynx. Vagus nerve is going to go to your internal organs. 11 is the accessory. This is the only place where the numbering is a little weird. Accessory goes to your neck, and hypoglossal again goes to the tongue. Okay, so how in the world are you going to remember all of these names? Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, we're going to divide them into motor nerves, sensory nerves, and both. Okay, both meaning they carry both sensory and motor signals. So you got to remember that some of them carry motor only, some of them, really, how am I supposed to remember all this and keep this straight? All right, I've got mnemonics. Don't worry, I got you. All right, so here's the mnemonic that I learned that helps me, and it is, oh, once one takes the anatomy final, very good, vacations are heavenly. Nice, right? So that's for the names of the nerves, and then for the function, we have S for sensory only, M for motor only, and B for both. So you can say, some say merry money, but my brother says big brains matter more. If you want to substitute something else for brains, feel free, just make sure it starts with a B. This is a link to a video about some other mnemonics that may help you learn the cranial nerves. Some of them are quite dirty, so that is not safe for work for those of you who need to know that. Now, here's my problem with the mnemonic, though. O once one. All three of the first nerves start with the letter O. Like, this is not helpful. How am I supposed to keep them straight? Fair warning, I learned them wrong, so I'm going to teach them correctly to you, and hopefully you will keep them straight and not make the mistakes that I always do. All right, O, olfactory. Number one, olfactory. All right, what is the thing that sticks out most on your face? It's your nose, right? So number one, most anterior, is your nose. Number two, optic, is your eyeball right behind your nose. Okay, so now I don't know about the rest of you, but I am a very clumsy person, and I have more than once in my life walked into a door. The first thing I hit was my nose, number one. See, the second thing I hit was my eye, number two. Right after that, I rolled my eyes at myself because I'm such a klutz. Oculomotor controls most of the extrinsic eye muscles that move the eye and you use to roll your eye. Okay, so nose, eye, roll your eye at yourself. Boom. That's how you're going to keep those clear. Cool, right? Okay, not cool, but silly. Anyway, there we go. All right, so now let's get into each of these nerves, what they mean, and where they originate from. So olfactory nerve is this group of neurons that go down into the nasal cavity. They synapse in the olfactory bulb, and then the olfactory tract, group of axons, carries from the signal from the bulb straight to the cerebral cortex, because this is the only sense that doesn't go through the thalamus. Remember that. So the olfactory bulb is really easy to see. It's this enlarged area at the end of this tract on the inferior side of the brain. Number two, optic nerve. Here's the optic nerve, the chiasm. Most of the signal crosses at the chiasm and then travels back first actually to the thalamus and then to the visual cortex. Okay, so optic nerve, optic chiasm, optic tract. Again, synapses in the chiasm. So that's number two. Number three, oculomotor. The oculomotor nerve comes from the eye through the hole at the back of the orbit, the same hole that the optic nerve goes through, and controls 4 of the 6 extrinsic eye muscles. There are intrinsic eye muscles which are actually inside the eye. Okay, these are extrinsic, meaning outside the eye. At this point, I just need you to know 4 of 6. If we had done the muscles for the next class that has already done the muscles, it's the medial rectus eye muscle, the inferior rectus. Remember, rectus means straight, so these are the straight muscles. The inferior oblique, which goes sideways around the bottom of the eye, the superior rectus, which is this one, and then the levator palpebrae superioris, which raises the upper eyelid here. Okay, that's oculomotor nerve number 3, and it's located directly behind the optic chiasm. Okay, so these first 3 are easy, right? 1, 2, 3, no problem, easy. And then, oh my God. All right, so now we're going to go lateral and back a little to the trochlear nerve. And the trochlear nerve is going to control the superior oblique eye muscle. Just that, that's all, just that. So this is the superior oblique eye muscle. It goes through a trochlea right here, that's that little thing, and comes to the back of the eyeball. All right, now the next nerve is the trigeminal nerve. So the trigeminal, tri is 3, so 3 branches. So this is a bigger nerve, and it has sensory and motor function. Okay, this is our first sensory and motor. The first 2, olfactory and optic, are sensory only. The next 2, oculomotor and trochlear, are motor only. Trigeminal, number 5, is both. The motor control is the muscles of mastication, which is the muscles that you use to move your jaw to chew with. Mastication means chewing. So there's muscles here that you chew with, and then it receives touch sensation from the skin of the face. Okay. Now, it's not everything on the face because, of course, smell, vision, and taste are different. So this is just taste sensation, or sorry, touch sensation from the skin of the face, not taste, touch. So 3 branches, trigeminal. Now, I could not keep this straight. I kept getting trigeminal and facial mixed up, which are really easy to mix up because they both go to the freaking face. All right, so take your fingers and make a number 3. Slap yourself on the cheek with it. Trigeminal. Feel that? The 3, tri, you felt it on your face. The sensation from the face, trigeminal nerves. Nerves. There's one on each side. All right, so olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, and then this big thing here is the trigeminal. Up next, abducens. The abducens is going to abduct the eye. You remember, abduct is to move something away from the midline of the body. The abduction of the eye is done by the lateral rectus eye muscle here. So this little abducens nerve there, just one muscle. So not much of anything. So that's that there. Okay, so movement of the eyeball itself. Oculomotor, trochlear, abducens. All right, so that was number 6. Number 7 is the facial nerve, which is here. The facial nerve is our next, both sensory and motor. The facial nerve is going to control the muscles of facial expression. Okay, trigeminal is the feeling from your face. Facial is the movement of your face, except these muscles here that control chewing. So that's the motor control. Now, this word innervate just means nerves go to or from. Okay, just means there's a nerve connection. Okay. It also innervates the anterior 2/3 of the tongue in taste, in sensation. Okay, so we've got all of these branches that go to all of these muscles to move your face, to make expressions, and to move your lips so you can talk, and then conducts taste from the anterior 2/3 of the tongue. You remember that the anterior palate, the roof of the mouth, is bone. Okay, so there's this division between the anterior oral cavity and the posterior oral cavity. Why? Because we evolved from fish. It's complicated. All right, so that's the facial nerve, which is this one. And then the next one is the vestibulocochlear nerve. Okay, so facial nerve, I think I put my arrow wrong. This should be this one. And then these 2 are vestibulocochlear. Actually, no, I'm sorry. These 2 are facial. This one is vestibulocochlear. Okay. Vestibulocochlear is going to receive signals, sensory signals from the ear. 2 kinds of signals: hearing, which is processed by the cochlea, that's this snail shell looking thing here, and then equilibrium and movement of the head, which is processed by these structures and this area here, which is the vestibule of the inner ear. Okay, and there's 2 branches, the vestibular branch, the cochlear branch. They fuse together into the, you guessed it, vestibulocochlear nerve number 8, which originates there. Okay, so olfactory, optic, oculomotor, once one takes the trochlear, trigeminal, anatomy final, abducens, facial, vestibulocochlear. Next up, glossopharyngeal. This is going to go to the tongue and the pharynx. The taste of the posterior 1/3 of the tongue is going to go through the glossopharyngeal nerve, the glossal branch, and the control of some of the muscles of the pharynx that you use to swallow and of the parotid salivary gland. That's going to be controlled through this nerve number 9, Glossopharyngeal nerve, posterior tongue taste, some of the swallowing muscles, some of the pharynx muscles, and the parotid salivary gland. And here is the glossopharyngeal. Pretty wide origin here. Okay, so that's number 9. Next up, the next really big one, and I think it's usually shown a little bigger than glossopharyngeal, is the vagus nerve. Now, when I teach this in the classroom, it's a shame you can't see me. Put your hands up, jazz hands all your fingers out. Number 10, raise them up in the sky and say, Vegas, baby! Because the vagus nerve is number 10, so put all your 10 fingers up, right? Also, your vagus nerve goes to your internal organs. You wouldn't be alive if your vagus nerve didn't work. So, life happens in Vegas. Vagus nerve controls your life. Get it? Okay. Notice the spelling, though. This is V-A-G-U-S. Okay. The city is V-E-G-A-S. Also, it's Las Vegas. Okay. So don't get those mixed up. Please don't misspell Vegas on the test. That would be so embarrassing. All right. This is going to receive sensory information from your internal organs and send motor information to your internal organs, to the smooth muscle of the digestive system, to the cardiac muscle of the heart, to the glands, all through your internal organs, your lungs, everything. All of your internal organs, vagus nerve. I wrote an article about the vagus nerve for the website Live Science. I have a link to that on the Canvas module as well, so you can learn all the cool things about the vagus nerve. It also does control some of the muscles in the pharynx and the larynx. So one of the things that can happen if you have damage to the vagus nerve is you can lose the ability to speak because the muscles inside your larynx that move the vocal cords could stop moving. How much would that suck? Your heart will still beat though, because remember, autorhythmic cells in the heart. Cool, right? Okay, vagus, number 10. That's this big one. All right, now next up, this one is number 11, accessory nerve. The accessory nerve is going to go down the cervical region, okay, and into the muscles of the neck and shoulder. Specifically, this muscle here called the sternocleidomastoid that originates on the sternum and the clavicle, that's the cleido, and inserts on the mastoid process, which is a little bump on the skull behind the ear. So the sternocleidomastoid, some of the pharynx muscles, and then the trapezius muscle, which is this big muscle that it covers the top of your shoulders and the top of your back. Okay, that's your trapezius muscle. So trapezius, sternocleidomastoid, some of the pharynx muscles, accessory nerves. How do I remember this? Because your shoulders and neck are where you hang your pretty accessories like necklaces. Okay, so it's the accessory nerve, number 11. Last one. Oh, and it goes like this. It just looks like earrings or a necklace or something, doesn't it? Accessory nerve. That's number 11. All right, number 12, hypoglossal. It's going to leave the inside of the skull through a hole called the hypoglossal canal. Cool, right? It's a whole named for it. And it's going to go under the tongue. I know, hypoglossal. Glossal means tongue. Hypo, under. Glossal, hypoglossal, under the tongue. And it's going to control the muscles that move the tongue and the muscles of the tongue. Okay, so we're going to have a bunch of muscles here that all end in glossus that move the tongue. And then we have a bunch of intrinsic muscles within the tongue that move the tongue, that are the tongue. So all of those, hypoglossal, and that is number 12. So there we go, hypoglossal, there. Ready to do it all again? Olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal, abducens. I'm sorry, I'm having to go through my mnemonic. O11 takes the anatomy, there we go, final, facial. Okay, O11 takes the anatomy, final. Very good vacations are heavenly. Okay, vestibulocochlear, glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory, hypoglossal. Boom. Done. And all you have to do is remember all that. No problem. You got like a whole week. You got this.